Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's masterclass on setting up a service catalog for your remote workforce with ServiceDesk Plus Cloud. My name is Nikhil. I'm from the product support team, and I'm going to be the presenter for today. All right, so before we could get started off with today's presentation, I just want to give you a quick run through on the housekeeping items we have for today. So please note that all of y'all would be muted by default. And if you have any questions during the course of the masterclass, please make use of the Q&A panel which you have on the left side of your screen. We also do have a dedicated Q&A at the end of the session where all your questions would be answered. If you miss out anything during the course of the masterclass, please do not worry, as a complete recording of this masterclass would be sent to all attendees in a couple of days. And in the meanwhile, if you have any feedback or any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. So that's my email address right there, which is nikhil.sa@zohocorp.com. Or you could always reach out to hello@servicedeskplus.com. Let's take a quick look on the agenda for today. So we're going to discuss how a service catalog is and what a service catalog is all about. We're going to see what are the various components a detailed service catalog would have. And we would see, along with a live use case of Zilker, which is a company, and see how Zilker managed its hiring process with its remote workforce. And as we discuss this use case, I would be giving you a demonstration of the service catalog capabilities which we have in ServiceDesk Plus Cloud. So let's take a quick look at what a service catalog is. A service catalog is the list of services and offerings which are available for the employees of an organization. And through the service catalog, the users would be able to quickly narrow down the services which are available and which their organization is offering, and they would be able to raise a request out of the same. So apart from that, a service catalog would include other components such as category, such it could include hardware, software, etc. Resource information. Through resource information, you could make sure that the end user who is requesting for a service can enter the maximum amount of information. You have SLA to ensure timely delivery of the service, and approvals to get the right approvals from the key stakeholders before you kickstart working on the service catalog or the service request, right? So how does a service catalog work? So service catalog has two parties, right? So the end users would request for a service, and all the services which the company or the employee or the organization would offer would or should be rather available to the end users in ease, along with quick access to all the information about it. And the end user should also have the transparency on how long these services would take to get delivered, right? And on the other hand, you have service desk, which would satisfy the requester's needs. So the service desk would communicate all the services which it provides to end users in an organization. It would also ensure that the services are being delivered to them in a timely manner, thereby ensuring end user satisfaction as well. So with that being said, let's take a quick look on how a service catalog is actually being worked on today. So service requests can be raised through different channels such as emails, walk-ins, or phone calls. And given this fact, there would not be a centralized visibility, or rather there would be no visibility on the status of the service request, and the users would end up calling the help desk or the service desk frequently to get to know the status of the same. Also, the end users would not have a centralized repository or a knowledge base to allow the end users to see what services are available in their organization as well. And apart from this, there would also be multiple teams or multiple departments working together in silos, and thereby leading to lack of clarity in roles and responsibilities. And that would in turn result in the lack of a centralized and a standardized process, thereby leading to severe complexities in an organization. So let's take a quick look at Zilker. So Zilker is an e-commerce company which is located in California, And let's see how Zilker handled its hiring process. So Zilker decided to remotely hire the open positions which it currently has for various fields of expertise such as hardware, software, and services. As you might know, a new hire always comes with several departments involved, right? So as and when a new employee joins an organization, there would be a hiring manager or a HR manager who's taking care of the induction process. There would be an IT team or a set of IT technicians who are working on the email account creation, the different levels of network access so that the new joinee can quickly access the same as and when they join the organization. There would be a legal team who's taking care of the non-disclosure agreements. Parallelly, there would be a facilities team who would provide the new joiner with a virtual machine so that they could work remotely. And parallelly, there would be a payroll manager who's taking care of the salary account and the payroll account to deposit their monthly salaries. And at the end, you have the hiring team who would take the new joinee through a virtual tour of the office, and they would ensure that their team members and their mentors are introduced virtually as well. So all this is happening remotely. And given the fact that there are so many departments, there could be various sites involved as well, or various regions involved during this hiring process. So in this case, there would be several IT service technicians or several process owners or service owners or even approvers distributed across various sites, right? And that would lead to roadblocks at each and every single step of the new hiring process. So given the fact that multiple open positions are available, there could be several new hire onboarding in a day, thereby leading to an IT silos, and there would be a lack of communication in gathering the employees' full-fledged information. Thereby, we end up shooting emails back and forth to different mailboxes, leading to a clear confusion, right? So apart from this, you would also have multiple technicians, like we saw, working in multiple sites with various job functions, leading to lack in clarity in their roles and responsibilities. And if they do not know what they're working on, there would clearly be a lot of tasks which would fall through cracks, and there would not be a centralized area where these tasks are being tracked as well. So apart from this, you also have you wouldn't have an automation process to speed up this routing process, which assigns the right group to the right tasks, the right approvals to the key stakeholders, also the right assignment to technicians, right? If all these 6 pointers are not there, you cannot expect a timely delivery of the service request. And given the fact that the hiring process happens in multiple locations, there would also be a lack in, the whole onboarding process, which is happening in different sites as well. So how do you ensure that an onboarding function functions smoothly, right? So we did come up with a workflow in which you could see that a HR manager will raise a new request. The service desk would in turn gather the employee's details such as resource information, resource type, job function, etc. And the necessary routing would be made. The assignments, technician assignments, and the technician grouping assignments would be made along with a 5-stage approval mechanism process, right? After that, you do have tasks which would be automatically created and routed to the right technician groups. And if you ensure that it goes in this fashion, you would have a timely, delivery, or you can ensure the timely delivery by making use of SLAs, and you could ensure the end users are being satisfied and notified during the whole course of this request lifecycle. So let's take a quick look on how you could implement this workflow in ServiceDesk Plus Cloud. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration right now. I'm going to take you to the application as a hiring manager and raise a new hire request. So that is our first step in the workflow. And let's take a look at how Service Desk would gather the employee details and the resource information, right? So I'm going to take you to the application as a requester. So in this case, it's a hiring manager. So this is a hiring manager's login. And a hiring manager would request for a service by clicking right here. And as you see, there is a service catalog named human resource. So you could have n number of service categories designed as per your requirement. So in this case, for this demo, we had taken the use case of a human resource, right? So under human resource, there are a list of services which the company is offering. And in this case, we are going to choose an employee onboarding since it's an onboarding request. So as and when a hiring manager clicks on employee onboarding, right, we see that a form pops up, and the employee or the employer would be notified right away with the amount, on how long it takes for this service to get delivered. Right, so it says it's delivered within 15 days, and we do see a form with which there is a category, there is a subcategory with different values, and there is a subject. So these are different fields which are available, and you do have resource details. So with the help of resource details, you would be able to fill in the information of the new hire and make sure that the maximum detail is being pushed to a service request or being recorded in a service request. So let's quickly fill out this form. So we are, or rather, I am a hiring manager. So I'm in the hiring manager's profile right now. So I did click on employee onboarding template. So the category is employee recruitment, and the subcategory is going to be permanent in this case. So I leave my subject as employee onboarding for now, which is predefined. And under resource details, I'm going to click on the category of the new hire. As you see, I just have a simple form right here. And when I choose permanent or contractor or freelancer as my category of hire, I do see that the form is expanding, right? So this is what we call as a dynamic form. So based on the values which you are choosing on a specific field or on a specific resource information, you could make use of certain rules which are available on a template level to hide or show the relevant fields which can be recorded and which would be helpful for a recruiting manager in this case. So let's quickly fill out this form. So this is a permanent employee. Let's call my new employee as uh, Sanjay for now, and the emergency contact number is a random value. I populate the mobile number, and I do not know in which office Sanjay is going to work in, right, at this point. So let me choose the department. So Sanjay is going to work on the sales department, and he is a sales officer, right? And I do not know the workstation details at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and add a request. So when I click on add, that's going to populate a new request, or rather create a new request in the ServiceDesk Plus application. So right here in a service request, you do see that we have a field called editor, right? And an editor has been assigned to a user named Sriram. So in this case, what happens is an editor would be able to perform a one-time edit operation for service requests and add in the fields which are missing, right? So as an employer, I do not know what workstation Sanjay would be using after he joins the organization, or I would not know a few more information, right? So in that case, as and when we have an editor in place, an editor at any point of time can edit this particular service request as a one-time operation and fill in the information which is not available, right? So let's quickly navigate to the editor's profile. So we are in the editor's profile at the moment. So we are currently logged in as Sriram. So let's take a quick look on the editor front. So this is the new request which we had created. So we did an employee onboarding for Sanjay, and when I click on that request, it says awaiting editor update from you, right? So what I would do as an editor is, so we are logged in as an editor, as you see, it's the Sriram's profile. So as and when you click on edit, I would be able to do a one-time operation as an editor and fill in the rest of the information. So I do see that the office location is not mentioned. So I can choose my office location, or rather Sanjay's office location, as California. And I do see there are a few mandatory options as well, right? So these were not mandatory earlier. So how did that happen? All these are being done in the backend using form rules. So we would be seeing how you could play with form rules, or how you could assign form rules to a specific template in a minute. So let's quickly fill out this form. So this is a desktop. I choose Dell. I choose an additional hardware such as the Dell keyboard, and I'm choosing a couple of other softwares, and I'm saying the reason as updated, right? And when I click on update request, that's going to edit my service request, and the latest information or the updated information would be available, on the original request right here, right? So that's how a request works. So how do you edit or configure a template, right? So as and when the editor, finishes the editing, there is an approval which is also being triggered. So under the approval section, you would see that there is an approval which is being triggered as well. And me as a technician, I could go ahead and approve. So I'm the configured approver right here. So I could go ahead to that specific request which we created for Sanjay and go ahead and update. So by doing that, I can check if the values which the editor has edited are correct, and I could do a cross verification as well. So under details, you'd be able to see that all the resource informations are being populated right now, the office location and the workstation detail, etc. And under approvals, you'd be able to see that an approval is waiting from me. So I can either choose to approve or reject. And as and when I click on submit, that's going to change my approval status from approved to from pending approval to approved, right? So this is the way you create a service request and take care of approvals in your onboarding process. So how does this happen? Let's take a quick look on the template front. So under setup, you do have templates and forms, and under service category, you do have the list of services which your organization offers, right? So you could create a new service category, for example, hardware or IT, right? And you could choose your desired icon, and as and when you click on save, a new service category would populate, and from there you'd be able to add your or configure your service templates, right? So for the purpose of this demo, we have created human resource as our service category, and we do have a list of service templates, out of which employee onboarding is the one in which we are going to see today. So when I edit my employee onboarding form, I'm going to see my service template. So this loads the list of fields which are pre-configured. And as you see on the template level, I have an editor value set. So that's how Sriram became my editor as and when I raised a new request, right? So if you want to add any field which is currently available in your organization, you could simply drag and drop them in any empty canvas. Or if you wish to create your own field or your own customized additional field, you could click and drag on the new field option which you have in the right hand side, drop it in the empty space on a template canvas, and that is going to populate a pop-up for you. And from the pop-up, you could choose what type of new field you're going to create, right? So in this case, for example, if you want to record the emergency number, right? Emergency number of a new hire. So you could go ahead with the field type of numeric. Or say, for example, if you want to record the employee ID, right? And if you want it to be auto-generated, you could make use of an auto number feature. You could give the prefix, you could give a suffix, and that's going to generate an employee ID automatically for you. So based on your requirement, you could make use of various field types which are available, such as single line, multi-line, pick list, numeric, currency, etc. Right? So if you feel that you have some personally identifiable information, such as a phone number for a user, right, or an emergency contact number in our previous case also, so that becomes a PII, right, or a personally identifiable information. So you could record that as a PII field, and you could encrypt the whole field as well. And under setup and under users and permissions, you'd be able to configure your privacy settings. And under PII fields, you can enable the list of new fields, new additional fields, which you treat as a PII field. And based on your configuration right here, as and when a user is being removed from your organization, or rather removed from ServiceDesk Plus, you could anonymize and erase their data as well, or you could replace their personally identifiable fields which you have recorded here. So you do have a few fields such as name, phone, and mobile, which are non-editable, or you cannot turn that off, whereas you have email and your additional fields which you have created, which can be disabled or enabled according to your preference, right? So based on your configuration, you could ensure that your service desk application is in accordance with certain privacy regulations such as the GDPR, right? So it's as simple as clicking on a user's profile right here and clicking on anonymize, and that's going to change the value of the PII fields to an anonymous value, right? So that's about fields and creating a new field and a new PII field. So having said that, you could also create resource informations, or you could configure resource informations in a service template. So how can that be done? So as per our use case, as we saw earlier, we did see a dynamic form which was populated. So as and when we clicked on permanent, we did see that the rest of the information had populated, right? So as an end user, or as a hiring manager, when you are working on a new hire, if you choose contractor, you would like to see the details which are relevant to the contractor and not a permanent employee or a freelancer. Similarly, when you choose permanent, you would like to see just the values or just the information which are relevant to a permanent employee and not a contractor, right? So what you could do is you could add your resource information right here. So how do you add? When you click on new or add resource right here, that would populate a pop-up from which you could create a new question, or you could ask an existing question or gather information from the person who's hiring, right? Or the end user. For instance, if you want to ask for the blood type, or if you want to ask for the date of birth, you could do so as well. Or at any point of time, you could click on new question, and you could ask a simple yes or no question. You could choose between a select box, check box, or a text box as well. For this use case, we have created a few text boxes, numeric fields, and we also did have a pick list in this case, which we have chosen under uh, the resource information section right here, right? And how did the dynamic form populate, right? So when I click on permanent, all these options had populated, right? So how did that happen? So under form rules, you can enable certain rules, right? So we do have a few rules already populated. So before going to those rules, I'm going to quickly show you how a new rule can be defined. So you could select your template or all the templates depending on your requirement, and you could say execute a request execute this rule when a new request is created or edited on a form load. Basically meaning whenever a requester clicks on a new service request, and when employee onboarding form populates, you want to make sure that a certain number of actions are being met based on your criteria or based on your conditions. So that's on form load. On field change, meaning as and when you click on a specific field such as category, and if your category says uh, permanent, or in this case, let's say employee recruitment. If my category is employee recruitment, I want a certain set of action. I want to either show a specific set of fields, I can hide a specific set of fields, or I can also enable, disable, mandate, or non-mandate fields, right? So in a typical case, under the category section, just because we chose category here, I'm going with category. So under category, you might have all these values, right? Business cards, employee exit, flexible, work policies, etc., etc. So for an employee onboarding template, for a person who's going to work on an employee onboarding template, they need not work on, all these categories. So in that case, what I could do is I could say whenever this specific field is chosen, or whenever this template is chosen, which is employee onboarding, on form load, I want to hide or I want to remove options from my category list. So I'm going to choose remove options. I'm going to choose my list as category, or my criteria as category, and I'm going to say remove business cards, remove corporate loan, remove employee exit, and remove grievance, etc., because we are talking about an employee onboarding in this case, right? So this is how you could create a form based on these options which are available. So on form submit, meaning you would be able to create a set of rules or actions based whenever an end user clicks on submit in a specific form or a service request, right? And for a form submit, there are limited set of actions such as set task, unset tasks. You could clear field values, or you could set a value to a specific field. So that's about form rules. So now let's take a look at what form rules we have in place, which in turn turned our employee onboarding form as a dynamic form, right? So as and when our form loaded, we did hide a few resources. So when the form loads, I did hide all these resources, which is section 1A, such as personal details, and section 2, and the contract employee details, right? And if my employee is going to be a permanent employee, then I want to show the resource which is related just for the permanent employee. And if in case this is a permanent employee, I want to hide the contract employee details because it is irrelevant in this case. Similarly, if I'm going on a contract employee, or if I'm going to hire a contract employee, and if my category of new hire is going to be a contractor, I want to show details relevant to the contract employee details and not the other way around, right? So I'm going to mandate a few fields right here and hide the permanent employee details as well. So that is how you could build a form rule. You could you could create fields in a template, and you could add resource informations and build a dynamic form, right? So let's get back to our slide and see where we are at this point. So as a hiring manager would raise a new request, or would create a new request, and with ServiceDesk Plus, with the service catalog feature, you would be able to record all the information such as your employee details through fields. And if you want to track a few other questions or few other information, you could make use of the resource information sections, and you could play with form rules to build a dynamic form as well, right? So with that being said, the next set of options are routing, assignment, and a 5-step approval mechanism process. So let's take a quick look on what they are or how that can be configured. So approvals in the application or in a service template can be configured within the template itself. And as and when you click on manage approval, you'd be able to add 5 different stages of approvals or approvers, right? So when you click on add approver, you have a list of organization roles and approval users. So we did see where you could configure organization roles and how you could set up organization roles in a previous masterclass. So I'm going to give you a quick run through on how you could configure the organization roles right now as well. So under setup, you do have instance configurations, and under instance configurations, you have organization roles. So it's as simple as selecting a specific organizational role level and associating a user to it, right? So I could say Ashley is my CFO in this case, and when I click on associate, a new role association is recorded. And at any point of time, if any of my organization level user changes, or if they transfer the ownership, I'll be able to change the ownership of the same by a single click as well, right? So I could record that Ashley is going to be my CEO. I could say that somebody else is going to be my CEO, etc., by a single click from right here as well. So this is how you could record an organizational role in your organization. And similar to an organizational level role, you have roles for different regions, for different sites, such as a site in charge, a site head, or a site manager. And you have various other roles all the way down to a user level as well, such as the reporting manager of a requester or a reporting manager of a technician. So these are organizational roles, and this is how you'd be able to configure organizational roles in the application and select them as one of the approvers, right? So as and when your organizational roles change, you need not come here back to the approvals and change their roles, or change the values for their email addresses or people as and when the ownership changes. So it's just done by one single click under the organizational role section. So that's the benefit of it. So we have organizational roles and approval users. So who are approval users? Approval users are requesters in the application who have a permission which is recorded. So let me quickly show you. Any user or any requester with a valid login would have this privilege. So when you scroll all the way down, you can assign a privilege which is request approver, and those requesters with this option enabled would be available in this list, right? That's how you see Ashwin Ram's name right here, right? So you see Ashwin as the requester, and that person is being visible as the approval user. So I could configure my second stage of approval as this user as well, or I could choose an organizational role as well based on my requirement, right? So you could configure up to 5 different stages of approvals, and as a one-time configuration, I could decide if the approval process should be, if the approval notification should be automatically sent as and when a service request is being raised, or I could configure that all the approvers who are configured here should approve, and only then the approval process should start, and the technician should start working on the service request, right? So that kind of a configuration can also be done as a one-time basis right here. You could also say if your technicians should not be assigned before the service request is approved, or if you want to show all these approval stages and their statuses to the requester, you could do that as a one-time configuration from this section as well, right? So now you have ensured that the right approvals are configured, and a five step approval mechanism is being triggered automatically, right? So with that being said, you need to ensure that the right team is working on your request. And how do you ensure that? So under setup, you do have users and permissions, and under users and permissions, you have technician groups. So technician groups can be filtered based on different sites. And for example, if I go to the New York site, I do have hiring as one of the hiring team as one of the groups, or one of the technician groups which I have created. And it's as simple as configuring or adding technicians to the group and enabling notifications to them. So by doing this, I will ensure that all these members are associated to a specific group, and they are being notified as and when a new request is being added to the group when I enable these notification options right here, right? So that's how you add users or technicians to a specific group within a site, right? So similar to technician groups, you also have user groups. For instance, a HR group in this case, and a HR group can be created, or any user group can be created based on a set of filters. So all you need to do is choose one of the values or one of your criteria from here. And in this case, we have a department, and it says if the department is HR services, I want to create a group which is HR group. So what is the benefit of adding a user group, right? So in this case, if you have a new employee onboarding template, right? You need not want an IT technician or a payroll or a facilities technician to view this template and work on it, right? So if you want the right set of people to view this request, or only a specific set of people to view this request, you could create user groups similar to what we have right here as a HR group, and you could scroll all the way down as and when you're configuring a template and associate a user group to that template. And by doing so, you could ensure that only the HR group members would work on this new hire template which is visible right here, or the employee onboarding template which is visible in the screen, right? So that's how you could add technician groups and user groups. So coming to automations, so under setup you do have automation, and by making use of business rules, you could ensure that you could create service request business rules under this criteria. And when you click on new business rule based on your condition, in this case, let's say if my template is once again employee onboarding, I could have a field update as an action, and I can say that a specific set of groups should work on it, right? So in this case, let's say it's a hiring team. Apart from this, you can also make sure that a technician is assigned along with adding a group right here as well through a business rule. But what I'm going to do is instead of having a technician here. So just in case I have Lisa as a technician right here and the group as a hiring team, and if I receive a new employee onboarding form or a request, and if Lisa is on leave, right, I will not be able to meet my SLA, right? So in cases like this, I would depend on another automation, which is technician auto assign. So when I click on technician auto assign, and as and when I enable this feature, based on my selection right here, if it's incidents or incidents and service requests, based on a round robin method or a load balancing method, I can ensure that whenever a request is created, edited, or both, it should automatically assign to technicians, right? And this should happen based on technicians availability. So how do you check if if a technician is available or not during a specific day? So under the home tab, you do have a technician availability chart from which you could record the leave for a technician or view who is available and who is not based on a specific site filter as well, right? So in this case, let's say Lisa is on leave and Lisa is on casual leave, let's say. And when I click on save, I'll be able to view a delegation option right here. So you see a red dot, right? So when you click there, you'll be able to initiate a new delegation. So a delegation can also be triggered from this section. So as in when you click on delegation, you would see that there is an undelegated leave. So a delegation is nothing but having a technician backup, right, for the period in which a technician is on leave. So as and when you click on delegate, you will be able to delegate the ownership of the upcoming request to a specific technician. And in this case, let me say Sunny. And you would also be able to delegate the upcoming approvals to a specific user such as Ashley, or I can say it should be associated to an organizational role such as the reporting manager of Lisa, right? So by doing this, I'm ensuring that all my upcoming requests or all Lisa's upcoming requests are not left unattended, and that they are being routed to the respective technicians such as Sunny, and the approvals are being routed to the reporting manager, right? So that's about having a technician auto assign in place, having a business rule in place to automate your assignments, right? So apart from this, what do you have? So under a template, you do have tasks. So now since you have ensured that you get the required permissions by sending in approvals, automated approvals, and once you have triggered the business rules, etc., to route these requests to the team members, you should ensure that there are relevant tasks so that the team can work, right? So you do have tasks which can be created under a service template, and based on our use case, which is employee onboarding, we have created certain predefined tasks right here, such as configuring an email and login in the AD, configuring assets, and taking care of the induction of the new employee as well, right? So based on your requirement, you could add tasks to the service template at any point of time. And as in when you do, you could have a template. If you have a task template, you could choose the tasks from them, or you could create a task on the fly from this section as well. So you could add your task title, you could assign it to a specific group such as a hiring team, and you could say Santa in this case should work on this specific task, right? And you could also define your priority and your status, right? So by doing that, you could configure tasks, and not just that, you could also manage task dependency. So for instance, you might have some n number of tasks for a specific service request, and in this case it's an employee onboarding request, and you have a lot of tasks, right? So if in case I want to say my workspace should depend on configuring assets, and it should also depend on configuring the email address and the login in the AD. In that case, I could simply drag and drop to whichever task it's depending on to create a parent-child relationship, right? So if I want to say this task depends on once again configuring the emails, I could create a relationship in a single drag and drop as well. So that's how you create dependencies on tasks to ensure that all the tasks which you have on a service template level are working in a linear fashion, right? So that's about creating tasks and task dependencies. So apart from this, you would also have a trigger option for tasks in which you could create tasks on the creation of service requests, or you could trigger tasks on the creation of service requests, or based on the approval of the service request, or you also have an option to trigger all these tasks manually as well, right? So now let's get back to our slide and see where we are. So as a hiring manager, the hiring manager would raise a new request. Service desk would fill in all the information, or he would fill in all the information through dynamic forms. There would be necessary routing which is being done, and technician auto assign would ensure that the right technicians are working on the request. And based on a five-step approval process, automatic approvals would be triggered, and we ensure that we receive the right heads up from the key stakeholders. Once this is done, there would be tasks which are automatically delegated or automatically triggered based on our template configuration. And with that, we should ensure that there is an SLA in place for this whole template, right? So let's quickly get back and see where we could associate SLAs. So you do have under service templates SLA for service. So SLAs can not just be assigned from here, it can also be created from within the setup option. So under setup, you do have automations and service level agreements. So similar to incident SLAs, you do have service request SLAs. So you could click on service request SLAs and create or define your SLA for your service request, right? So the difference between an incident SLA and a service request SLA is that a service request SLA would not have criteria, or it would not have a condition, right? So for instance, in an incident SLA, you might have a criteria as if the priority is high, set a high SLA, right? So that option is not available in the service request. Rather, what happens is the service request or the service request SLA itself is tied to the template on the whole. So as and when you create a template, you will be able to associate an SLA to it. And based on the SLA association, whenever you create a new request or a new onboarding request as an end user, you will be able to see that you know the time frame of delivery. So as an end user, if I click on employee onboarding, it's going to populate how long it's going to take for my service to be delivered, right? It says delivered within 15 days, and this is being done through my SLA. And in this case, I do have my new hire SLA, which is associated to my template, which is employee onboarding once again. And it says the service request should be fulfilled within 15 days. I can also enable this option, which says it should be resolved irrespective of operational hours, irrespective of holidays and weekends. Apart from this, you do have escalations which you can enable. So if in case your service request is not being fulfilled within the configured number of days, you could ensure that an escalation is in place to escalate, to either before a certain time frame or after a certain time frame based on your requirement. And you can escalate it to, once again, organizational roles or technicians. In this case, you could escalate it to the ticket owner, or you could ensure that another technician is aware of this escalation before a certain number of days so that they can take quick action on this. So similar to the level one, you have up to 4 levels of escalations which can be enabled for a service request, right? So that is how you configure SLAs and tie SLAs to a service request, right? So with that being said, as a technician, I'd be able to work on the service request, close out all the tasks, and once all my tasks are closed, for instance, if I have completed working on all these tasks, or if I've ensured that my groups, or my technician groups and my technicians have completed all these tasks, they'd be able to as an end user or as a technician, you'd be able to view the progress of the same through the progress bar, right? So when I click on close and when I click on yes, I'd be able to see that the progress is being filled in this section, right? So as and when technicians are working on tasks, they'd be able to fill in the percentage completed right here from this section, and that's going to show up in the progress bar right here, right? So right now in this case, let's say that all my technicians have completed their tasks, and when I quickly refresh this page, you would notice that the status of the request would change to closed automatically, right? So let's take a quick look on closure rules. So as a technician, under setup, when you navigate to automation, you would find closure rules. So through closure rules, you could ensure that you have a few mandatory options which you have enabled in your request front, that shows that a request is successfully closed in this case, right? So in our case, I have enabled associated tasks should be closed as one of my mandatory field. Apart from this, you could choose all the or your desired list of fields or additional fields which you have created, and ensure that they are being filled before a request is being closed, right? So apart from this, you do have an automatic closure of requests. So as and when a request is put to a resolved state, right, the requester would receive a close link in which they could either reply to the same email to reopen the request, or if they do not reply, the request would be moved to closed in the specific number of days which you have configured right here, and in this case it is 1 day, right? So that's how you automatically close a request. And apart from that, as you saw when we were working on tasks, and as and when I completed all the tasks or closed all the tasks, it moved the status to closed automatically, instead of having the technician navigate back to the request and changing the status to closed, right? So how can that be done? That can be done using a single click by enabling this option. When all the associated tasks are completed, move the request to closed, right? You could also say move the request to resolved, and that would in turn send a closed link to the requester, and based on their satisfaction, they could either reply to the email, or they could leave it as it is for an automated closure, right? With that being said, you can ensure that SLAs are in place, and through closure rules you could close out a request successfully. So how do you notify requesters throughout this life cycle to and manage their expectations, right? So by making use of notification rules under automation, you could ensure that you could enable these requester notifications. For example, as and when a request is created, you could ensure that a requester is notified, or as and when a new technician is assigned to the request, you could ensure that your requester is notified. So apart from that, you do have notifications for technicians as well. And based on your requirement, whenever a technician is assigned or whenever a new reply is received from the requester, if you want to notify the technicians, you could enable these options, or you could customize the template of the email which is being triggered to them as a part of this option, right? So that's about notification rules which you have. So apart from the list of the default notifications which we have, you can at any point of time trigger notifications through business rules as well. So you could create a simple business rule. So in this case, it's a service request business rule. You could create a new business rule. You could have a condition, or it's up to you. If you do not want any condition, you could click on apply no condition, and under action you could go ahead and click on notification, right? So when you click on notification, you have the ability to create a new customized notification, which can either be an email or an SMS. And the recipients can once again be organizational roles, it can be request users, or it can be individual technicians in your organization, right? And you have the option to customize your subject and the body of the message which is being triggered as a part of this customized notification. And by making use of dollar variables, you'd be able to choose the list of fields which are already available, or the list of additional fields can be chosen from this section as well. So that would help you in building up your template with all the desired information to alert a specific set of audience, right? So that's how you alert end users. And to ensure that your end users are being satisfied with the service which you offer, you could enable user survey. So under setup, you once again have user surveys, and under survey settings, if you enable the user survey, you'd be able to send out a template. So a customizable template is available right here. So based on your requirement, you could change the content, you could add different message variables and subject variables in the desired sections, and you could send out the survey notification as well, right? So apart from this, you could also define your questions, such as how would you rate our service as, or how was your experience with us? And you have the ability to define your satisfaction levels, and you could add a number of levels as per your requirement. And this is your preview, right? Your survey preview would look somewhat like this. So as and when a user receives a survey or a survey link, this is how they would be seeing the survey as. And based on the selections or based on your options which you have given, they'd be able to rate your service, and the results of the survey would be visible under the survey results section right here. Apart from this, you can also take a report to ensure end user satisfaction as well, right? So how do you take or how do you evaluate your service catalog tool, right? So that's being done once again, like I said, through reports. So under reports, you have a list of predefined reports which are available to you across all the modules in the application. So based on your requirement, for example, if you want to know what are the amount of requests which have been created on a specific day, right? So in that case, you could create a new custom report. You could say proceed to report wizard, choose the list of available columns, and under filter options, you could have the created time as today or yesterday, and you could run a report to view the data, right? In this case, I did not have any new requests to create it today. So let's go ahead and choose yesterday. That would populate some numbers for me, right? So this is how you could create reports and ensure that, you track your data, which based on the, requests which are being created. So apart from that, you do also have certain request metrics reports with which you could say or see if your technicians are violating the SLA, or if your first response is being violated as and when you work on requests as well, right? So through KPIs, you would be able to note the number of requests which are closed within the service level agreement time, thereby ensuring the resolution time is being met. You could ensure that your technicians productivity is being tracked, and you could also track the list of backlog requests in your service desk plus application, right? With that, we have come to the very end of the presentation. So let me do a quick recap on what we saw today. So a service catalog is a listing of all the services which are available for all the employees in an organization. We did see different service categories and templates that can be organized in your service catalog. With the help of resource information and form rules, you could create relevant or you could get all the detailed information and the relevant information as in when you're raising a request. And through automatic approvals up to 5 stages, you could ensure that your key stakeholders are being notified and you're getting the right approvals. Through technician auto assign and through business rules, you could ensure that automatic ticket assignment is being made. With the help of delegations and with the help of tasks, you could make sure that the right team is being working or being alerted of their work, thereby ensuring no discrepancies, right? So you do have SLAs to ensure timeliness or ensure timely delivery of the service request. And you could go ahead with a smooth closure, and you could ensure that all the mandatory fields are being filled out before you could close out a request. You could either say if it's going to be an automated request or a manual closure request based on your closure rules. So apart from this, I do want to show you another thing which we have in the application. So as and when we were working on the employee onboarding form or the employee onboarding template, you did notice that the name of the user or the name of the new hire populated right here. So how did that happen? We do have under setup, we did create a business rule just to show you all. And under service request business rules, we do have a business rule which says append new hire, right? So that has a custom function in place which is appending the subject with the new hire's name. So as and when a new hire is being onboarded, you could have the new hire's name listed in the request in the subject, and that would in turn be easy as and when technicians are working on it or end users are viewing the status of a request. And for example, if this is my portal, right, you would see that there are different names right here. So I onboarded Jason, I onboarded Larry, Sam, Sanjay, etc. Right? And if in case I do not have the custom function, it would look similar to this, such as employee onboarding, which is my subject's name, and I would not have a clear visibility on whose request I'm working on unless and until I navigate inside the request and view the detail of the request. So this is one such case which you could use a custom function to append the new hire's name to your subject, which would make your work easier, right? So apart from this, if you wish to transfer a request from one instance to another, right? So you have the ESM right here, or the from from different ESM portals or different portals which you have in the application, such as IT help desk, facilities, etc. You could ensure that a request is being pushed to the IT instance or the facilities instance as and when you're working on the HR help desk as well, and that can be done making use of custom functions once again, right? So you could reach out to our support email address if you need more clarity on how custom functions work, or if you need any help with regards to custom functions. So we do have another integration. So as and when we have technicians working on an onboarding request, right? So that might need a particular or a list of softwares which technicians might have to remote into the new hires machine and install. In that case, you could make use of the remote connection integration which we have with Zoho Assist, and by a single click, the user or the technician would be able to get connected with each other through the remote session, and the technician would be able to perform their tasks, which is installing the relevant softwares as well. So that can also be performed as a part of the integrations which are available. We do have a 45-minute one-on-one training session with our product experts, and if you want to enroll, please book your slots at itsmcares at manageengine.com. So you could drop an email to this email address, which is once again itsmcares at manageengine.com, and you could avail your free product training and consultation. Thank you so much everyone for joining in and tuning in to today's masterclass presentation. So my name is Nikhil, and you could always reach out to me or hello@servicedeskplus.com or our support email address for any further clarifications. Thank you, take care, and stay safe. Bye bye.